5149.
On behalf of Seton Hall's Department of Military Science, its cadre and staff, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's promotion ceremony honoring our Professor of Military Science, Major Russell Lemler, and his family. We are very pleased here to have today Colonel Todd Woodruff presiding over today's ceremony. But before we begin, please allow me to extend a special welcome to Major Lemler's wife, Carly, his daughter Eleanor, his son Grant, and his sister-in-law Christy. At this time, I invite Master Sergeant Aaron Beckman to offer an invocation.
Almighty God, creator of all, as we have gathered during this new time, a time of new beginnings, the birth of our Savior, the start of a new year, it is a fitting time to celebrate the promotion of Major Russell Lemler to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Our hearts are filled with happiness for him and his whole family. You have prepared him for this day and blessed him with a special trust. You endow him with the abilities of mind, body, and spirit more than equal to the task. You give him leaders, mentors, peers, and a supporting family to help him along the way. Remember that to whom with much is given, much is required. I ask you to direct his steps and give him strength to carry out his new responsibilities. Endow him with the spirit of wisdom and justice. Lead Russell and all of us, O Lord, in the way of peace. Unite us in spirit of service. Nourish and sustain us in our vocation. For this sake of your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Master Sergeant. It is my pleasure to introduce Colonel Todd Woodruff, West Point Academy's professor in the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Leadership. Colonel Woodruff.
See if I cannot break anything here. Just let me begin by saying thank you to everybody for making this journey, whether it was just from down the street, which was the case for me. It is cold out there, it is windy, and particularly those of you who've traveled from some distance, I appreciate you making this trip given these conditions here. I also want to extend a special thank you to Russ's family, to his mother and his sister who couldn't be here today. They had planned to travel and fly here, but could not because of flight cancellations, and to Carly's parents who also could not attend. So I know that you are in their thoughts and their prayers today, and I wish they could be here with you. So thanks to them for the effort they made to try to make it. I also want to say special thanks and welcome to Dr. Karen Boroff. Karen is she's the provost at Seton Hall University. So most of us here from West Point, we don't even know what a provost is. So I'll tell you for a second. So we have one dean here. Most universities have many deans. So she's essentially the dean of deans, deans of the multiple colleges there. So thank you so much for coming here. She's a big fan of West Point, having had a couple kids graduate here, and has worked with BSNL over the years. So we consider her a big fan, and we're big fans of hers, and I consider her a great partner, and very glad to have you here today, so thank you. I also want to say, I guess Dr. Tracy Gottlieb couldn't be here today. Russ is essentially direct supervisor there at Seton Hall. I know Russ thinks highly of her, and she sends her best as well. So I want to take this time here to congratulate Russ and then share a little bit about him so that we can all get to know him a little bit better. And as most of us know, promotion in the Army is kind of future looking. It is based on your potential for greater service, to serve at the next rank, to serve in positions of greater responsibility. But it largely comes because you've done great things in the past, right? But the confidence the Army has in you is because of all the great things you've done. And what I'm hoping is that after I'm done speaking here, that Carly, you know a little bit more, at least something that you didn't know about Russ before, good things, all right? And then we all know him a little bit better, so you can have something to talk about tonight as you're drinking Russ and Carly's beer and wine, which I know I plan to do. All right. So this is a special day for them. You know, a special day for Russ, also a special day for Carly, for Elliot, and for Grant. This isn't just a celebration of Russ and what he's done, it's a celebration of this family. And as we all know, being an Army family is a big job. There's a lot of sacrifice with it. And Russ came into the Army, commissioned into the Army, I guess, is more accurate, right before 9/11. So he served his entire career in an Army at war, right? And you have been a family that have served the Army at war. And there's a lot that comes with that. There's not just the deployments, of which Russ has had a couple, and there is the additional family separation. It is the crazy operational tempo. It is the sacrifice of separation that occurs not just for deployments, but in the readiness to deploy to war and to do what our nation asks. It is the many, many sacrifices that happen every day, and they've happened over a career. And I just will begin by saying thank you for being a great Army family and everything that you guys have done up to this point, and all the things that you guys will do as we continue with Russ's great career in the future here. So Russ, after graduating, went to Hawaii. I know it's a rough thing, but somebody has to do it. So he went to serve in the 3rd Battalion, 7th Cavalry, 7th Field Artillery. And to my count, you did at least 5 different jobs in that battalion.
That's right.
That's some heavy lifting, right? That's a lot of stuff. That's not normal. I know you did those jobs because you were doing each one of them great, and they needed somebody of your caliber each time. He also deployed to combat. Went to Afghanistan and learned how to lead troops in combat while he was part of the 25th Infantry Division. When he came back, he had the opportunity to go to the Career Captain's Course and then commanded Alpha Troop of the 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion 19th Field Artillery, where he worked for a great person many of us know, Colonel Mike Endress. So I assume he had a little something to do with you coming here. It's not something we talked about before, but I suspect you serving in his command and then coming to us shortly thereafter, his leaving here in BSNL is not an accident. So.
No, there's definitely a connection there.
Great. So Russ, after command, became part of a very, very select group. So I would say that be selected to go to graduate school and come to West Point is something that happens for very few people. Well, Russ was a special population within that special population. He was selected to go do a PhD in business administration. And Russ went big. Russ decided to go to Columbia Business School, do his PhD there, and they don't get much more prestigious than that. So that in and of itself is amazing. And I was lucky enough to catch him at the tail end of his PhD and see him bring it all together, and he did absolutely amazing work. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that Russ isn't the first doctor in the house, nor I don't think he's even the first, is he? So Carly has a Juris Doctorate. So kids, if you plan on living up to the standards that your parents have set, you are going to be in school for a long time. You're certainly going to have a beard. You might even be a little gray by the time you get there, if you want to do the same thing. So when I got here, one thing became really, when I came here this time in 2012 and I ran across Russ the first time, one thing became really quickly apparent to me. I'm like, here we are, we're in one of the largest programs in the academy in the management department, the management program, academic major, and there is one captain/major there. 3 senior civilian faculty members and Colonel Hebert. And I'm like, I know who's doing the work here. I know. And I know Colonel Hebert, are you here tonight? You make it up here?
Can't make it.
I know he's a hard-working man, but when you have a colonel and a couple senior civilian faculty members, Russ was doing the heavy work day to day, the administrative stuff, and making, keeping the gears oiled there. In fact, when I got there, I spent that first year just learning everything I could from him, because I knew he was leaving, and he was the one that held he held the keys. He had all the secrets and knew how everything worked. After he left, there were no captains and majors. It was just Colonel Downs, Colonel Hamilton, and myself, and we looked at each other and said, well, there's no more captains, there's no more majors, I guess we better get to work. And at that point, we realized how much Russ was doing, and it is amazing. So I wanted to share. I'm going to steal something from Everett. So Everett, Spain, always reaches out to past bosses and people that the people he's talking about have worked for, and I've always admired that and enjoyed that. So I'm going to steal a little bit of that, and in doing so, try to share a little bit more deeply about the person Russ is. So I talked to Mike Henley, who was the program director when Russ was here, and he, first of all, sends his congratulations and says that you are one of the most impressive individuals that he's seen. He is so very impressed. He said that you must have taught 4 or 5 different classes, and that's a lot. Each one of those is a separate preparation. That is a lot of work and a lot of effort over the course of a few years getting that many classes together and teaching them. He said he always could count on you, and he could load you up with that because you had the strongest sense of duty, that you were the greatest teammate and one of the best people he knows. So from behalf of Mike Henley, he says congratulations and well-deserved promotion. Tom Hebert, he says that he was most impressed during a period when you were planning and then executing a deployment to China. So we often send cadets and faculty members to the Beijing International MBA program. And Russ was bringing 3 cadets and a full colonel, and Colonel Hebert there to China with him, and he was largely responsible for the planning and coordination of this. So Colonel Hebert shared that not only was it planned extraordinarily well, not only did the cadets really get a deep dive in culture, but they were able to socialize and kind of enjoy that culture and enjoy the food and drinks that came with this activity, because Russ was there kind of to make sure that they were always good ambassadors, that they were always doing things that were developmental while they were still having a great time. And though Colonel Hebert didn't say it, I suspect he was pretty happy that he had Russ there so that he could drink deeply from the culture. He could read between the lines as much as he wanted. So I want to thank you for everything you did to set me up for success and everything that you've done for BSNL. It is the things that you've done and the things that you put in place continue to pay dividends, and they continue to exist in some shape or form in BSNL. So thank you to everything that you've done. When Russ left here, he went to Command General Staff College, and he had the opportunity to then go to work in Jordan. Is that correct? Head to Jordan. He was the XO for the Commanding General for CENTCOM Forward. So again, separated from family, again doing some of the heavy lifting. And I would suggest to you, you probably don't get. I know you don't accidentally fall into those jobs, because I've seen them. I've seen how it works, and it is very much a process of who's the right person. It probably didn't hurt that you had a PhD from Columbia Business School. It probably didn't hurt that you've done just fantastic work up to that point. But he did great work there, and he came back to Fort Bliss. And there he got to work for 2 gentlemen, one by the name of Lieutenant Colonel John Shire, and a former BSNLer, Colonel Chip Daniels. So Colonel Shine shared that with me. He said, I'm going to read this to you. As soon as Russ arrived to our brigade as the fire support officer, he was immediately tasked to plan and coordinate a multinational exercise in Gabon, Africa, as part of the AFRICOM Regionally Aligned Force. And during this preparation and the execution of this event, Russ epitomized taking the message to Garcia. And I know that probably doesn't mean anything but for about half the people in here, but taking the message to Garcia means doing the hardest task with the most limited information, knowing what right looks like in terms of completing that task, little resources, little information, but taking the initiative and being persistent and getting that done regardless of how difficult it is. So it's important that he says that here, because delivering the message to Garcia is something that is very important. He identified the right players in the Gabonese army, in AFRICOM, in U.S. Army Africa, and NATO partners, the Marine Corps, and the Army National Guard. And within weeks, he had identified and addressed all of the challenges and then established the relationships and his own expertise as necessary to solve all those challenges and execute this thing to a high level, all while navigating a whole bunch of diplomatic challenges. Colonel Shire could not concisely tell me everything he wanted to. He had a lot of great things to say about you. So I will just suffice to say that this is but an excerpt of the many fine things he said about you. I would add to that if doing that in Africa wasn't enough, while he was there in Africa executing that operation, he was also planning for a second deployment to Africa, which because of Ebola actually got shifted to the Netherlands. Is that correct?
That's right. It was fantastic.
Yeah, so, yeah, Africa and the Netherlands. So Colonel Chip Daniels, who Colonel Spain and I have served with, and he worked with us in the bullpen in PL 300. He was the commander of 3rd Brigade, 1st Armored Division there, and he shared with me. He said, Russ was the lead planner for this multinational event that was designed to be in West Africa and then shifted to the Netherlands due to the Ebola scare. Russ worked with the Dutch for months, preparing for this exercise, to include several trips to planning conferences and early deployment. Not only did he enjoy the trust of his American peers and the trust of Colonel Daniels, but he also had the trust of the Dutch officers, who soon began to rely on Russ's judgment and his competence to a very high degree. In fact, the Dutch Army regarded him so highly that they selected Russ for a very special honor, and this truly is special. So you may not know this, but there's a new bridge that was built in Nijmegen to commemorate the crossing of the river there during World War II. I'm sure there's been a bridge there for a while, but this is a new memorial bridge that's there. And they've started this this tradition of crossing and marching across the bridge each night. And when Russ's unit got there, no American forces had yet crossed this new bridge. So with the leaders of the BCT there, the Dutch selected Russ to lead the march. They said, we want Russ Lemler, of all the people, all the Americans here, to lead this march. And then as he walked across the bridge, that bridge, and he would reach a light, that light would be turned on. And there were 48 lights on that bridge. One light for each American soldier that died taking that bridge. So as Russ led that BCT across, they would turn on a light, one after the other, until they had crossed. And Russ, that is quite a testament to how people think about you. And if you think about it, typically they would defer to the commander or defer to somebody, but they must have truly felt a connection with you and known in you that you were a person of character and competence. So after that, Russ was selected to be the PMS at Seton Hall University. In that role, he's the commander of the Pirate Battalion there. And I will tell you something interesting about what Russ is doing now is, it's not just Seton Hall. It is a total of 24 colleges and universities that fall under the umbrella of Seton Hall. So all these different schools, if they have somebody who wants to do Army ROTC, they go through Russ's program. That's a pretty substantial span of control. And for those of you who are used to kind of how we do things here at West Point, if you're a PMS, that means you are the RTO, you are the TAC, you are the instructor, you are the academic counselor, you are the director of military instruction, you are the director of physical education, and you're probably also the director of internship programs. But you wear a lot of hats, and to do that for Seton Hall and do that for 24 other programs is pretty impressive. Karen shared with me that you guys had done a case study together, that you her son, and her had written this case study on the change for drill sergeants, and that she was very impressed, and she really appreciated the calm, patient, supportive mentorship that you provided to her son for Ranger School and through the process there. And she's also been observing you and appreciating you while you've been at Seton Hall. She has shared with me that you continue to earn outstanding teaching evaluations, which is no surprise to us, and that she had the good fortune of going to one of your Pirate Battalion balls, where she could see with her and really appreciate the deep respect and appreciation that the cadets and the faculty have for you as the leader of that program. She says that your work ethic, professionalism, and sense of humor are endearing traits, and that the people of Seton Hall feel blessed that we have him to head our OTC program. Well, Russ, I'll tell you, we are blessed to have you as a leader of the United States Army. We're blessed to have the Lemler family as part of that, and we're blessed that we get to keep you in the Army, and that you have a lot more to do and to provide to the Army in your future service. So we fully expect in the not distant future that Russ is going to be commanding a battalion, and I certainly hope that also involves you coming back and joining us on the USMA faculty someday. As you know, there's a million routes, and I'm confident that'll happen for you. I want to close by thanking the Lemler family, Carly, Ellie, and Grant, again for your service. It's not just Russ being a great officer, it is all of you being a great family. And I'll just wrap up by saying, if you haven't seen Russ with his family, as impressive as he is as an officer, based on what I've told you here, he's probably even more impressive as a father and a husband. He's just that good in all things that he does. And if you're going to be good, why not be good at being a good parent, a good spouse, and being a good soldier? I can't think of three things to do better, and you are among the best at those things. So congratulations, and we look forward to seeing all the great things that you're going to do in the future here.
Thank you, Colonel Weaver, for those kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Attention to orders. The President of the United States has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Russell P. Lemler. In view of these qualities and his demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, he is therefore promoted in the United States Army to the grade of Lieutenant Colonel, effective 1 January 2018. By order of the Secretary of the Army, signs the Wright Mather, Chief, Officer Promotions Branch. Will Carly, Ellie, and Grant please come forward to pin on Colonel Lemler's new rank?
Everybody please relax.
There we go. Pinch it together. We should have practiced this. Oh. It helps. I've done this before. Pinch it and sign it off. Okay. start with the front one. Good enough. Master Sergeant Beckman will fix it.
Your mom was taking pictures.
I won't be able to call him Russ for a few more years again, but it's going to be an honor to call him sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Woodruff will now re-administer the oath of office to Colonel Lemler.
I state your full name,
I, Russell Paul Limley,
having been appointed officer in the United States Army
having been appointed an officer in the United States Army
in the grade of Lieutenant Colonel,
in the grade of Lieutenant
do
Colonel,
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Army's newest Lieutenant Colonel, accompanied by one of the best Army families. Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you. Colonel Lemler.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. This whole thing makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but I love you all, and I really appreciate you being here. This means a lot to me, Carly and the kids. To have you feel like the warmth and the love in this room on a ridiculously cold January evening is very special. Thank you. I kind of view my career as a series of leader development opportunities. I know that sounds a little nerdy, but coming from BSNL, that's what we study. And I think we'd all agree that that's what the Army does as an organization. And I count myself very fortunate to have learned to be a better leader from a lot of people in this room. First and foremost, Colonel Todd Woodruff, sir, thank you. The much coveted Pirate Battalion coin. Yeah, I appreciate the comments and you putting this together. Sir, that was very nice. Yeah, some of my family couldn't be here. You know, when I married Carly, I got a really special family in Rick and Joanne Romano, and a really fabulous sister-in-law, Christy. I wanted to give her a rose.
Oh, thank you.
Christy, you do more for us and for Ellie and Grant than would be expected of any aunt, and you're a really special lady, and I thank you and love you. Greg, it's great to have someone on board on the son-in-law train. Great guy. I appreciate all you do. Carly and I've been successful enough. Carly has been uber successful, and we attribute much of that to you, Pat. She's a tremendous help to our family, and I want to give her a rose. I absolutely love my job. Being a member of the Seton Hall community and part of ROTC has really been a dream come true. When I was here teaching, I got stuck on escort duty. You know, they run the DA6, the roster, and you know, people get pegged randomly for escort duty. This was maybe 7 years ago, and I randomly got selected to escort the Cadet Command CG to Sandhurst. And while tooling him around in a dirty government minivan, I met the 6 happiest lieutenant colonels I've ever met in my life, and that planted the seed that ROTC was something that I wanted to do. And the planets aligned, and God blessed us to send us to Seton Hall University, where I knew Karen Boroff, Karen and Joel are here, thank you both. Karen did her sabbatical in BSNL, and when I found out that I was going to Seton Hall, it wasn't my first choice. It wasn't a total look. The Army, for some reason, gave me my first choice. You know that never happens. I ended up at Seton Hall, and I love it. The team that we have there, you all are amazing. Thank you for being here, but much more than that, thank you for what you do every day for our cadets, for our program, for our country. I mean that. Yeah, thank you. I have a few roses for the wives. It's not for you, all. For your wives. So, for Brittany and Lene and Jasmine. I know we have some long nights, some weekends. Appreciate you all being great Army families. Thanks, kids. And some really long summers at Fort Knox. Man, those are kind of a drag. We actually embrace it and have a fantastic time, but it's tough being away from family for 2 months, pretty much every summer. So, anyway, thank you all. I'm going to give a quick shout out to 2001. Any 2001 brothers? Being here until duty is done. There are a lot of colonels here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I mean that. That sounded a little flippant, but I mean that to everyone who's here. Thank you. The Army's given me a lot. I've been blessed with this career. The one thing they gave me that I treasure above all else is my wife, Carly. I first saw Carly yearly year, sophomore year here at West Point, at Grant Turnaround just down the road. She was breathtaking. Unfortunately, for me at the time, I was just another 5'10" cadet nerd with a bad medium fade, and she just looked right through me. It took me a couple more years to put on a little bit of my man weight, and gain a little more confidence. But I somehow won her heart. We're not done with the Army, but I wouldn't trade a day between now and then. You're a superwoman, you're a woman. And I love what you do for our family and what you do for me and what you do for our community. You give more to this community and our Army than any human being that I know. And I love what you do for Ellie and Grant. And I love you. You also gave us some fantastic kids, Ellie and Grant. Ellie, to see you today, you're remarkable. Let's get some good photos because I don't want you to grow up anymore. Yeah, you are so much more than I thought you would ever be. I'm kind of at a loss for words. But don't ever doubt yourself. Sometimes I feel like you doubt your abilities, and I wanted to say very publicly that is so ridiculous. From doing more push-ups than anyone in her grade, male or female, in West Point Middle School, to being varsity cheerleading as a freshman, to making straight A's. Not that that even really matters. That matters a little bit. Doesn't matter. You're so smart. I just love you so much. And a ridiculously small token of how much I love you. Grant, man, this kid is amazing. Anybody met Grant? If you haven't met Grant, you need to have like a grown-up conversation with Grant because he's spectacular, buddy. You also are more than anything your mother and I could ever dream. And the biggest compliment Grant ever paid me about 2 or 3 months ago, he told me I was his best friend, and I'll take it, man. I got you a little baseball. It's pretty late on next door for an informal social. Beer, wine, and soda is complimentary. There's some snacks, cash bar if you feel like having some liquor. Everybody drive safe. Requisite Army safety message. I'll stop talking, but you want to just go in there? We're not going to stand up here and wait for everybody to come through. Just everybody go have a drink, eat some hors d'oeuvres, and come up and say hi to us. That's it.